My name is Rob Carpenter. I'm a director of White Gold. I'm also a geologist. This afternoon's talk might get a little technical. I'm going to give you guys an overview of the company, a bit of the corporate structure, the people involved. I also want to highlight the two main accomplishments thus far in the summer: discovery of two new zones. One is the Vertigo Zone, which is located in our JP Ross property. I'll go through that, as well as the Ryan showing, which is near our Golden Saddle deposit. Our symbol, if you have a pen, is WGO in the TSX Venture Exchange. We also trade on the OTC NASDAQ and in Frankfurt. So there is no excuse for not owning the stock. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and you can see it here on our front page. A lot of people come to this part of the Yukon and they think, wow, it's mountainous. But really, if you look at where we're standing, we're on a flattened plateau, and all of the peaks are more or less the same. And that's a very important observation because this has actually never been glaciated. We're actually on a plateau, and 5 million years ago, all of this was one flat area, and all of the topography you're seeing is erosion, and not all of that erosion and chemical weathering and physical weathering led to the placer development of the Klondike gold fields, which you all know about, and that's produced 20 million ounces of gold. Why is that important for us? Because we know that the rocks in this region are fertile because the gold in that placer came from these nearby formations. Another thing that's important is it gets to the heart of how we explore in this area. We use basic tools of soil sampling. Everything comes to surface. Because it's never been glaciated, we can take a soil sample with a simple hand auger 50 centimeters below surface and get a reliable indication of what's below us. Whereas in other parts of the Canadian Shield or elsewhere, we're kicking boulders, we're looking at till, we have to go back to source. So we have a big advantage in that our technique works. And we know it works because over the past 10 years, it's been responsible for every major discovery in the camp, which is well over 7 million ounces and counting. Disclosure, we take a lot of pride in how we disclose our results, and we weirdly enjoy talking about our methodology. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to let us know. Whenever you're investing in any company, let alone a junior mining company, you have to look at some key factors. One is the team, two is the corporate structure, and three are the projects. You need all of those. And this slide is a little bit of a table of contents on why I think White Gold checks all of those boxes and more. We have the team. We have all of the technical people that have been involved in every major discovery in the camp, and as well, we have a very strong corporate background as well. The land package, we own over 40% of the White District, and that's an accumulation of properties from Sean Ryan that have come together into this company, which we began in 2016. The partnerships, Agnico Eagle owns 19.9% of the company, and Kinross Gold owns 19.9% of the company. And value, we really think that when you're in a gold district, you never hear of lone wolf gold deposits, do you? They occur in camps. And we believe we're in one such camp. We think a couple of major discoveries have been made. And we think by continuing to do our basic geoscience, our basic soil sampling, with our interpretation of what type of gold we're looking for, we'll continue to make more discoveries. Bit of an overview. We're just south of Dawson, about 80 kilometers. This gold guy gets a little bit of an airplay. But what distinguishes this area from other parts of the Yukon? In the past 10 years, we've seen the majors come in. Coffee was discovered and sold for $500 million, which is well over a 5 million ounce resource. Golden Saddle, which occurs in our White property, is well over 1 million ounces as well. So definitely things are evolving and things are changing from the time this old man was looking for gold. So why are the majors here now? What's changed in 10 years, really? And I think it gets down to the fact that the high-grade nature of the deposits that are being found is important. There's no shortage of low-grade gold deposits in the planet, and all ounces are not created equal. And Kinross, Gold Corp, and Agnico have all moved into the White District, and I think it's because we've recognized a new style of gold deposit for the area. But maybe not so different if you've explored in other parts of the world, like Western Australia or Ontario or Quebec. And when that model is high-grade, shear zones, and structures, which is kind of a new model for the Yukon, as is the Carlin type that Graham spoke about. This stuff's not in textbooks yet, but it's definitely getting the attention of the majors as well as the juniors. I don't have to talk much about why the Yukon. We've had many people up here talk about the political jurisdictions. Also, Western Copper talked about the commitment from the federal government to build roads. Our JP Ross property, our Vertigo discovery, is essentially drivable from Dawson in about an hour and a half. So it's not remote. It's not a seasonal play anymore. Companies like White Gold, we're not one-trick ponies. We have a very big platform of projects. A little bit about the history of how this company came about. After the initial wave of discoveries in White Gold in 2010, 2011, we all know there was a downturn in 2013. And as a result, many of the properties that Sean had optioned off to various companies came back to him. And to Sean's credit, he kept the property consolidated and spent a lot of his own money keeping them together, well over $1 million of money out of his own pocket keeping this together. And then Agnico Eagle went, well, in 2016, Kaminak was bought out by Goldcorp, and the White Gold team was assembled. With members of a geology team from Underworld, Kaminak, as well as the corporate team that knew Sean quite well. The initial investment by Agnico Eagle of $14.5 million, designed for early stage exploration, and then followed by our reacquisition of the White deposit and Golden Saddle deposit from Kinross. So it gives you a bit of an overview on how we got here. Structure, I won't go through this too much. I've talked a little bit about it. Strong hands. By December 31st this year, we'll be sitting with about $7 million in cash. So we feel we're in a very strong financial position with key shareholders being Agnico, Kinross, and insiders. The people, I won't go over it too much. I will mention Dave D'Onofrio and Dave Schmidt are here as well, and we're going to be doing one-on-ones, and we're going to Colorado Springs as well after this, so there's plenty of time to get to know everybody. A name you may not know is Jody Gibson, our VP Exploration. He's a geologist, and he drilled the first holes that discovered gold in this district back in 2008. So the deposit, the portfolio themselves, why I like this company, why I got involved in it, why I've invested in it, is because of a pipeline of projects, a pipeline of prospects that starts at these early stage soil anomalies that I mentioned, that works towards a drilling and then resource definition. At the base of that pyramid, you'll see a number of those like Nolan, Wolf, etc. Some of those you may never hear again. Others you may. The two main discovery stage projects this year were Vertigo and also Orion showing. And at the pinnacle of this pyramid at the moment is our Golden Saddle deposit, which is a little over 1 million ounces, a little bit around 1 million ounces at about 2.4 grams per ton. Golden Saddle itself, as you can see, it's essentially one near vertical dipping sheet. There's the grades and the tonnage that I just went through. We spent this year total about $9 million in exploration, and half of it was right in around this area, with the idea to try to expand the resource. We wanted to do that two ways: at depth of the known mineralization and along trend. And that's where the Ryan showing comes in. We basically decided that within a 5-kilometer radius of the known mineralization, anything we can find within there will be value-added ounces and will be important at the end of the day when further investment decisions are being made. So the two new big discoveries this summer. Ryan showing, as I mentioned, here you can see it's about 2 kilometers away from the Golden Saddle deposit. Again, found by a soil anomaly, very basic tools. There was a historic drill hole here, but it was largely drilled in the wrong direction. Not because the geologists didn't know what they were doing, but because they didn't have a complete data set. And the data set we found this year that's helping us get over the hump making these discoveries is a remote sensing tool called LiDAR. And LiDAR is essentially a laser that strips all of the overburden off of your image, so you're left with a bare image of the bedrock. And that helps you identify the different fault zones and the different structures. And that helped us at Ryan showing in order to help us drill essentially 90 degrees from where previous drilling happened. And right now, we've got 2 holes that hit significant grade, as you can see there, and we've got, I think, 8 more holes waiting, and we're pending assays. So the new tool, the remote sensing tool, has really helped us define and actually prioritize a number of our soil anomalies as well. We also have other targets in this area. The Golden Saddle structure itself is open on either end, and we've drilled some holes about a kilometer or so west of the known resource, an area we're calling GSW, or Golden Saddle West, and we're waiting assays for that material now. Vertigo. So some key takeaways here, some things I've learned from doing the one-on-ones in the morning is I want everybody to know that this is a distinct discovery that is independent of the white and the Golden Saddle. It occurs about 30 kilometers north of Golden Saddle, halfway basically to Dawson. It's road accessible. Many of the roads in this area were put in by the placer miners, so it's very much workable near year-round. The story here again is simple. It was a soil anomaly that we reinterpreted with some LiDAR data, and the previous operator drilled a hole east-west, and they ended the hole in 17 grams per ton over a meter, right at the bottom, with visible gold. So we went in and saw that as an indicator that yes, there's decent grade here, and we used our LiDAR and we reinterpreted the structures, and lo and behold, we were getting what we think are more representative values. You can see, and this image isn't the greatest one, but up in the far image, there's a northwest trend to a number of those things. And we think that's a regional scale fault zone or a regional scale structure that exceeds 10 kilometers. And Vertigo itself is one such soil anomaly along that trend. And if we were in Ontario or Quebec right now talking about gold deposits, we'd be talking about similar scale first order fault zones with the structures that actually host the gold, kind of like pearls on a necklace within that big fault zone. And I think that's what we have here. The initial results, when we have visible gold actually on surface, and when you look at that sample, it's not coarse gold, it's fine gold. And we think it could be very repeatable when reassayed. And also, the nature of the mineralization itself actually resembles what we would call a fault fill shear zone. It's a laminated quartz vein. I don't want to get overly technical, but it's consistent with the model that we're looking at fault zones that contain quartz veins with gold. So even though it's a new style of mineralization in the Yukon, it's no stranger to gold deposits worldwide. I'm trying to think. I had a few other things I wanted to say on this one. So we've actually are currently still drilling this, and we're going to be drilling till about mid-October. So from the news flow perspective, you're going to see a layered approach well into the new year on things from the base of the pyramid, for example, soil samples, new prospects that are getting up to the next level. You'll see additional news on the Ryan showing, which we've been doing diamond drilling on. You'll see additional news on the Vertigo, everything from soil sampling to additional drilling, which will be continuing right into the middle of October. You'll see additional assay results on Golden Saddle, the down dip, deeper version or deeper extension. You'll see additional drill results coming on the Golden Saddle West and the Donahue, the McKinnon, other prospects in around this area. So it's a well-layered story. I found this morning when we gave the one-on-ones, one of our challenges was making sure everyone understood that it's not just a resource story trying to make it bigger. It's actually making new discoveries, identifying new prospects, as well as adding to that resource category. And I feel we have the team and the breadth to do that. We have the right financial and technical partners in Agnico and Kinross, and I think we have probably, in my opinion, one of the most prospective gold areas in North America. I was lucky enough to be involved in the first 400 drill holes at Coffee, where that Goldcorp bought for $500 million. And when I look at the geological footprint of the Vertigo and the J.P. Ross property, I see something on similar scale. It's up to us now to drill these holes and find out if the mineralization and the grade is continuous, but certainly the footprint is suggestive that we're in the right environment for big deposits. Every presentation I've been to so far has been cut off for lack of time, and this will be no different. But here are some of the other prospects that are in the pipeline. You may hear some of these names this time next year when we're talking about things. Look at the Wolf, for example. Continuous samples, anomalous for over several hundred meters. We're going to be drill testing these things, and we feel that many of them have the potential for discovery. And in our budget, we have allocated dollars for each level of this pyramid, which I think is another important takeaway for everybody. Again, I've summed this up to a certain degree, about $9 to $10 million spent this year within the resource expansion and new discoveries. And I will leave it at that with 14 seconds to spare.
Very good.